The Man Without Fear, Daredevil, is the newest duelist added to Marvel Rivals in Season 4.5. He's a fast-moving, high-input requirement, beefy brawler in the melee range, and he's going to be striking down targets with his two billy clubs and combos with his acrobatics and athletics to take targets down quickly. He's going to get into the action, dealing sustained continual damage to targets while keeping himself generally healthy with large amounts of bonus health, so it's hard to take him down if you don't focus on him. Players that really love skill expression and combos are going to love this character because you're constantly dealing with abilities that need to be comboed off of other plays, and you're having to do a lot of tracking of resources throughout your fights. Starting off playing Daredevil, what you have to get used to is his radar sense. Matt Murdoch is blind, and they put this into the game in a very interesting way. The character himself has the regular sight of all players at about 30 meters. You can see all characters within that range. From 30 to 50 meters, instead of being able to see, he's got an echolocation radar sense. What this does is it pings targets every couple of seconds, sending out a wave that lets him see all targets within 50 yards. When you're looking around at him, you're going to see targets blip in and out of sight every couple of seconds because that echolocation pulse is sending you out info about what's going on. Any target not in line of sight, you're going to be able to see within that range. So targets behind walls or barriers are going to be fully envisioned for Daredevil. This makes him a very interesting scouting style character because he can see the enemy flanks and positioning when your team can't actually get eyes on the targets. His basic strike is Justice Jab. This is 2 hits with his billy clubs. Each hit is a light chunk of damage, slightly stronger than the standard melee strike, somewhere around 45 damage. These hits are not particularly powerful, nor are they particularly fast. You're not going to be shredding targets with this strike, and you're going to just be weaving this into the rest of your rotation, which is going to become important later. In addition to this double strike, he also has a separate melee strike. Activated with the V key on PC or right analog stick, you can do a melee strike. This is going to come in a 3-part activation, the first being a jab cross, then it's going to come into an uppercut, and then finally a right hook. So jab, jab, uppercut, right hook is his triple melee strike. This does the standard damage of 30, so it's a little bit lower than the Justice Jabs. But what does happen is there is a melee animation cancel where you can cancel Justice Jabs with these strikes, and you can get a faster kill on targets by weaving between his melee punches and his Justice strikes, greatly speeding up the time it takes him to take down a target. His secondary fire, Objection, is a short duration channel that's going to swing his billy clubs around like nunchucks, doing damage to targets in the area and repelling away incoming attacks. Ranged attacks that hit him while he is using Objection are going to reflect back at the attacker. This works against many ultimates and CC in the game, saving him from a lot of incoming damage. The damage of it is not particularly high, and you're really not using it for the chunk damage unless you're desperately trying to take out a target that is moving quickly around you and you need to get that little sliver of damage off. For the most part, you're saving this to save yourself as you are trying to retreat or to block an incoming powerful attack. Infernal Fury, his E ability, is the bread and butter of his kit. When activated, he has 2 options: primary fire to Devil's Chain or secondary fire to Devil's Throw. Devil's Chain is a short-range attack that's going to slam his billy clubs in an X-based pattern about 5 meters ahead of him, doing AoE in the area for about 3 meters around it. This strike does a good chunk of damage to targets that are in the center, and it peters off in damage the further you are from the center of the effect. This ability costs 2 Fury. You can see that from the flames above the ability indicator. Fury is tracked in the center of the screen by these little flames. When you do any kind of strike on the target, you're going to gain half a flame per strike, and you can build up to 3 flames at a time. Activating Infernal Fury and using one of the 2 abilities consumes 2 of those flames to deal the damage of the effect. Devil's Throw, the secondary fire option for Infernal Fury, is going to throw your billy clubs at a location, which are going to bounce around to nearby targets, dealing damage to multiple targets at a time. The damage output is slightly lower than Devil's Chain on a single target, but does more damage as you have more targets in the area that aren't in the direct impact location of the chain attack. You're going to be using these billy clubs to deal AoE damage to teams or to take out targets that you can't keep within that 5 meter range to use your chains on effectively. It's also going to be your main tool to deal damage to flyers. Both activations, Devil's Chain or Devil's Throw, also gives you a chunk of bonus health, gaining 50 bonus health whenever you activate one of these 2 abilities. This caps out at 125 bonus HP, making your maximum 450. You're going to be gaining lots of bonus health from this effect, and you can stay very safe and be much harder to take down when you're shredding through your targets. So you can definitely play a little bit riskier than usual once you've activated this ability. After activating either of these abilities, you get a new basic attack option, which is called Righteous Cross. You'll leap forward and do an X-shaped cross in front of you, doing AoE damage to targets in the area. The general playstyle of Daredevil is to constantly be activating one of these two effects, doing the damage, following up with the Righteous Cross, striking again to get back to your 2 Fury, and then using one of the abilities again. Constantly building up Fury generation, and then unleashing abilities from this Infernal Fury is the core to his gameplay. And the faster you can build Fury is really going to be the difference between an effective and ineffective Daredevil. This is why the melee interrupt is so important from his basic attacks. He's going to be able to generate so much more Fury on targets if he can hit more targets at a time, and you're going to be able to shred groups with high Fury generation. Devil's Latch is his left shift ability. This throws out one of his billy clubs forwards and will pull him towards any target or object that's struck. If he hits a wall or the ground, he'll get pulled to that location and get a slight little bounce at the end of it. Where if he hits another player, he's going to pull that player towards him and him towards that player, meeting in the middle and still gaining that little hop. This is your primary mobility tool, and you're going to be using this to navigate around the maps, but also to lock down targets and pull enemies in closer to you that are trying to get away from you. The activation of this ability does give you 2 Fury, so once you've used your skills and you activate it to pull yourself to a location, you're going to quickly gain 2 Fury up, and you can use one of your Infernal skills again. This is where a lot of that input requirement is coming. You're going to be constantly generating Fury at very fast rates, and then be spending it effectively to be at your full lethality as Daredevil. Next up is Sonic Pursuit. When you hover over a target within your sensing location, you can activate Sonic Pursuit to mark them. This is going to give you a 10-second duration mark on that target that makes it so that you will never lose sight of them. Even if they leave your 50-meter distance, you can constantly keep track of that target. Once you're within 20 meters of that target, you can reactivate this to dash to them, giving quick mobility and ability to stick onto that target effectively. You can move your sensed target while the ability is on cooldown to actually dash to them, and when you kill the target that you currently have marked, your dash comes off cooldown. A big part of Daredevil's play is figuring out who you're going to be hunting, putting that mark on them, and then taking them out quickly. Once the target gets taken down, your dash gets reset, you can move it to your next target and dash after them. Chaining effects against targets and being able to take down multiple enemies in a fight is going to feel really good on Daredevil and strike fear in your enemies. When you mark a target with this Sonic Pursuit, they do get an indicator letting them know that you see them and you're hunting that particular player. You might not want to activate this early because it does give the enemy the sense that you know where their location is and you're coming for them. This can be a great way to convince a player to stop doing a play they thought that they were going to make by marking them when they're out of line of sight and letting them know that you know they're coming. But it can also be great to hold on to this until you are deeper into the fight and more likely going to be able to take that target down. If a target doesn't know I'm coming for them, I'm going to be using Devil's Latch or Infernal Fury to initiate the combat against them, and then I'm going to mark them once I've already started hitting them. This mark will then give me the option to quickly dash to them if they're able to try and get an escape away from me, or to do a quick burst of damage when they're lower HP. Once you're within a main combat and the enemy team knows where you're at, feel free to move your Sonic Pursuit around on whichever target you're planning to take down. You don't have to be as sneaky with it in that situation. While Sonic Pursuit is on targets, Daredevil does get a boost of movement speed. He gets increased movement as long as he has somebody marked with this effect, and that can let him chase down targets very effectively and maneuver the map a lot faster. To help with that maneuverability, he also has a wall run. He can run straight up walls similar to Black Panther. He can't do a sidewall run like Spidey, but the ability to scale up walls is very useful for your repositioning efforts and can be a great tool to escape after you've made a play. Daredevil's ultimate ability, Let the Devil Out, creates a large ring around him. Any enemy within the ring that is facing Daredevil is going to take damage over time and get a stacking debuff on them that limits their vision. At full stacks, they'll have a very small area of vision that they can see, and everything else is going to be black, and they're not going to be sure what's going on around them. Also, while this ability is activated, he gains passive fury at a very rapid rate, so he's able to do his Devil's Chain or Devil's Throw quite rapidly throughout this phase. It lasts 10 seconds, and he's going to be able to get a lot of damage off on a lot of targets in this time. There's two things to think about when you're being affected by this. You want to break line of sight from him if you aren't currently hitting him. But because of his rapid fury generation and the amount of damage he's going to be pumping out in this time, it's usually going to be best to face him down, crowd control him, and kill him before he's able to get his combos off. If you ignore Daredevil while he's letting out the devil, you're going to get shredded. When you're playing as Daredevil, activating this can make you feel really strong, but you're not invulnerable, and you need to make sure you're making smart plays. You're still a duelist that can be focused down and crushed very easily, so you want to make sure you're using this when you have good advantage with your team or some kind of safety net to protect you. Don't just leap into 6 enemies, activate this, and try and take everybody down. You're going to have a bad time. Daredevil can see invisible targets. If there are players like Invisible Woman, Loki, or Psylocke in his games that are sneaking around in their invisible state, he can still see them clear as day, and is able to easily lock down on those targets and take them out. This even works through like Invisible Woman's ultimate. He can see into the ultimate effortlessly and can track all of the targets inside, which is a really cool sense of feeling that echolocation that Daredevil's got going on. All right, so in game, what are you doing as Daredevil? Well, first off, you are a very powerful scout. Because you can see enemies outside of line of sight, you're going to be able to give your team a lot of information on what's happening around you. You can make calls at where players are flanking at, and you can track enemies very effectively. This should make you a very powerful anti-diver. If you see a dive-style character making a flanking maneuver, you're going to be able to intercept them and fight them in that 1v1. Daredevil's really good in 1v1s, and if you can make targets be isolated and fight you alone, you're likely to win a lot of those fights. Tracking out players that are isolating themselves and using your ability set to quickly get to them and shred them before they can mess with your team is going to be a really powerful part of the playstyle. Besides that, you're using your high mobility to get to squishier targets and shredding them with your disruptive attacks. Marking on to squishy backliners like strategists and duelists is going to let you shred down your enemy team and give your team huge advantages. Just be sure to know what your escape measure is and holding your devil's latch to get yourself out in most situations. You really shouldn't be burning this thing unless you know you've now won a team fight. If you're not sure you're going to be successful in the current kill and be able to get out effectively, you want Devil's Latch to be a safety tool rather than to use it for executions. You really don't want to be doing one-for-one trades on Daredevil, and you instead want to make sure that you are taking down targets and escaping effectively, or just disrupting the enemy, taking their focus away from where it should be. With your ability to wall run, deflect attacks, and use the latch to quickly maneuver, you should be really hard to take down, and you shouldn't really be dying very often. If you are dying, you've likely made a calculation error in your attack, and you need to reanalyze when you're going in and who you're taking down. Flyers are definitely where Daredevil struggles. If you're dealing with a Iron Man, Human Torch, Storm, Ultron, anybody up in the sky, you have a very limited set that you can do to take those targets down. What you're going to want to do is activate Infernal Fury and use Devil Throw on the target. Next up, you're going to want to mark them with your sense and dash to them. With that Fury generated and you landing again after the dash, you're going to follow that up with another Devil's Throw. Now you need to be able to get up to the target again, so you're going to use your Devil's Latch to grab onto them and pull them to you and you to them. After that, you've now used all of your resources that could possibly allow you to hit that flyer, so if they're not dead at this point and you don't have a ground-based unit nearby, you've probably got yourself in a bad situation and you're not going to have anything left to take that flyer down. This is going to be a little bit of a struggle for Daredevil, and you're not going to want to be playing him into flying comps. One flyer on the enemy team is fine, but a team of multiple flyers is going to be where Daredevil extremely struggles. From my playing so far, the best teams that had Daredevil on them, the Daredevil is very communicative with their team, constantly calling out where enemies are at, and being the main shot caller, talking about who to take down. This character's ability to sense targets, track them, and keep them in sight makes him a very effective team captain and a great character in general to have. In combat, you want to be constantly activating Devil's Chain or Devil's Throw, and then getting yourself pulled to the target with a Righteous Cross and quickly generate yourself up to 3 Fury again, before activating it again, constantly doing a generation of Fury and unleashing Devil's attacks. Because you're going to be spamming your basic attack, melee strike, Devil's Chains or Devil's Throw into Righteous Cross, Latch Tosses, and Sonic Pursuits, you're going to be spending a lot of time pressing different keys really quickly to be effective on this character, and you need to be tracking which is the right time to press what ability. If you try to activate Infernal Fury, but you don't have your 2 flames yet, the ability doesn't start. So if you try to do a Devil's Throw, but you're not quite at 2 Fury yet, instead you're going to just waste your objection ability. This is happening a lot to inexperienced players playing this character. They're burning their cooldowns, unfortunately, because they are trying to activate their abilities faster than they're actually generating the resources. And that resource generation tracking is very, very important. This is where a lot of the skill expression is going to come from him. The better you are at both using and tracking your Fury generation, the better you're going to be in these games. With this guide, you have a better understanding of how to let the devil out with Daredevil. I'm Zizzy Fresh from Sazaza Games, and we'll catch you guys next time. Sazaze.